when you study the mode of worship in various countries and in various religions, you come across a certain mode of worshipping only while you keep standing, with your hands hanging by the side. Some people, in some religions, in some countries of the world, worship like this. And in some others, they worship while they fold their hands before them. In some countries, they bow before either imaginary God or to God as they understand, and worship by bowing. Some worship by prostrating. Some worship while sitting. So all these various postures of worship are prevalent in different religions and different countries. So look at the beauty of Islam, that this is the only religion which combines all these diverse modes into one single form of prayer. So even if you understand only this much of the significance, that should be enough for you to raise your head, keep your head high during your discussions with the non-Muslims and tell them, look here, this is the beauty of our prayer, which is entirely missing in yours. Okay?
Okay. Thank you. Zur, what is the difference between lying and hypocrisy?
Lying hypocrisy is a practiced lying. Lying in practice. Lying is by word of mouth and hypocrisy is by actions. Where you don't say anything wrong, but you live a lie. So living a lie, as they say in English, is hypocrisy. Right. Thank you.
What does it feel like being a Khalifa?
What?
What does it feel like being a Khalifa?
You know, you can't explain this, what it is like. You have to be one before you really know what it is. It's a very, very wide experience of a special nature in which your outlook on everything acquires a special angle of vision. And this is something which took me very long to get accustomed to. Many years, in fact, before I could really believe that I am that, that sort of thing. Because to remove the parallax between my personal individual self and the office of Khilafat took a great effort on my part, because I used to respect that office so much that to feel like sitting in that office, fulfilling that office, filling that office with my person, seemed so unreal and unacceptable in the sense of my own assessment of myself, that it was a very difficult effort which I had to make, and continuous effort for many years, to ultimately identify myself in my own eyes as a caliph. So it is that difficult a process. And if you expect me to describe all these various efforts and failures and attempts and so on, and describe the entire attitude to you in one sitting here, I think you're asking for too much. But thank you for this very intelligent question. Again, the children of today seem to be far more, let me say, active in their thinking processes on religion than perhaps the comparatively dormant looking Ansar and Khuddam. Yes, please. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Yes.
What new development are you hoping to see in the Jamaat in the new year?
And what would you say have been the greatest changes since you came here?
Greatest changes in the Jamaat? Well, the changes you can see, can't you? And you can breathe and you can feel. The Jamaat, with the grace of Allah, has entered the new century with many more dimensions of development and progress available to the Jamaat now. Many more areas of activities have been laid open to us, and with the grace of Allah we are progressing in all directions. And also internally, I think the Jamaat is going through a process of morally, as they call, rearming themselves. But moral rearmament is a different term. You know, I didn't want to identify the Jamaat with that rearmament, moral rearmament movement. It's not that. But I mean, Jamaat is getting, I feel, far more conscious at the individual level to improve their moral standards. And this is reflected also from the hundreds of letters which I receive daily. More and more people ask me for praying for the improvement of their morals, for help from Allah to give them greater strength and support to fulfill their resolve to emerge as better human beings. Now, this desire to ask for prayer can generally be compared with my earlier experience of mail I received during the early period of my Khilafat. In those days, I remember most of the letters were about this worldly gain or that worldly gain, this problem and that problem. Of course, these letters also come, and they are essential part of our life. But this shift of emphasis from personal material requirements to those of the spiritual nature, I think is very encouraging. So that is one area, for instance, which I can demonstrate to you, is where I feel happy and satisfied. Thank you.
We Muslims believe in Allah, the books and the prophets.
And angels?
And angels.
Yes. And hereafter?
And the day of judgment.
Yes.
Could Azur tell us which are the holy books of other religions should we believe in?
All. You see, you believe in the books, in all the books. But also you believe that most of these books, in fact all of these books, have been interpolated with. They have been gradually corrupted and changed, and they are no longer authentic in their entirety. But still they contain many portions which remain pure and untouched and unchanged by human mind, almost as they were revealed in their original purity. This is our belief. And also we believe that all those teachings which were revealed to different religions at different times in history have also been preserved in the Quran. And only that detail is left out by the Quran, which was only of timely consequence, timely importance, and which was not in itself worthy of keeping for posterity and future generations of mankind. This, let me explain. Teachings are of two types. Some teachings are universal and permanent. They can't be changed. Human beings will always need such teachings. For instance, tell the truth. Don't usurp other people's rights.